I found a pizza delivery job just 10 minutes from my flat. It's great, close by, and I know the area, so I can't really get lost. The job is simple, and it pays me enough to cover everything I need. But here's the thing, I live alone, and ever since I started working at the pizza place, the only place I seem to deliver to is my own flat. That sounds ridiculous, right? If I'm working, how can the delivery calls come from my flat? It's true, and the first time I got an order from my own address, I thought it was some kind of mistake. I delivered it anyway. When I knocked, a weed-smoking hippie answered the door, took the pizza, and gave me a great tip. My flat looked completely different inside, with a load of hippies inside. I shrugged it off, went back to the restaurant, and got another order on the same day. Again, it was for my flat. This time, an obese man answered. The place smelled awful, and his hygiene was obviously horrendous. But he tipped me too. All night, I kept delivering pizzas to my own flat. Yet when I finally went home, it was back to completely normal. Empty. Just the way I'd left it. Back to being my flat. I couldn't make sense of what I'd seen. It was incredible what I had just experienced. And I had no idea who those people were. At least I got paid and tipped all at the same time. I didn't even have to travel far. For 2 years now, I've just been delivering to my own flat. Every time, the door is opened by someone different, and the inside is completely unrecognizable. I've delivered to murderers, with blood still smeared all over the walls. I've even handed pizza to figures that weren't human, all still inside my flat. But when I come home, everything's always as I left it. Then, one night, I get another order for my flat. But this time, when I knock, the door opens, and it's me standing there, sad, covered in blood, and there seems to be another person lying on the floor. I hand over the pizza and go back to work. Good luck on your first shift. Rules for the road. 1. Under no circumstances are you to go off the route shown on the GPS. Irrespective of how long it is, follow it as if your life depends on it. Because it does. 2. On a related note, if your GPS reroutes at any point after you begin a delivery, do not follow it. Press the phone icon on your steering wheel and follow dispatch's instructions. 3. Do not stop on the motorway or on the hard shoulder. The former makes you a sitting duck for the creatures, and the latter breaks rule number 1. 4. When going on any unpaved road, turn off your beams and press the second button on your left column. It will guide you through the darkness while keeping you hidden. 5. If at any point your radio turns on and you can only hear static, turn off the engine, lie flat on the bench, and close your eyes. Count to 100 in your head. If you heard any tapping on your cabin, count again from 0 as soon as it stops. Rinse and repeat until nothing can be heard. After you are done, slowly sit back up and continue driving. 6. If the previous occurs while you are on the motorway, press the button marked EMP on your wheel and floor it. I do mean floor it. Drive as fast as you possibly can without losing control of the van. And when the static goes away, begin counting 10 seconds in your head. Only then begin to slow down back to the speed limit. Do not worry, you will not be docked. 7. Turn off your beams whenever there's another vehicle coming towards you. It might be late motorists, it might be someone or something else. You do not want to find out. Rules for delivering. Leave your phone in the cabin whenever making a delivery. Some of the entities can sense electromagnetic signals, and you do not want them knowing to look for you. Depending on the color on the shipping label, do the following. 1. Yellow. Drop it wherever you can without losing sight of your way back. Be careful. 2. Red. Grab one of the capsules and move slowly and carefully. If you begin to hear growling, footsteps, scraping, or anything similar, crack it and throw it as far away from you and the van as possible. Run back to the van as soon as you hear them getting away from you. Forget about the package. Your life is infinitely more important. 3. Silver. Do not let any light shine on you. It means the creatures are deaf, but can see you if you come out of the dark. 4. Green. Knock on the front door. If you get a response, follow the instructions. Otherwise, leave it there and continue. 5. Black. Call dispatch. They will let you know exactly what to do, step by step. Do not open the door before calling them. You will never be found again. If you hear a female voice calling from the distance, freeze in place and close your eyes. Hold your breath if you keep hearing footsteps around you. Do not open your eyes or make a single sound. No matter how hard the temptation, no matter what you feel or hear around you, only do it after you hear them leaving and the noise cease. If at any point you hear any animal sounds approaching you, slowly head back to the van and drive away as fast as you can. You do not want to risk it being a regular animal or an unspeakable abomination. There's no way to tell in the dark, and we don't want to tell by how we'll find you in the morning. Rules for debrief. 1. When returning to the warehouse, make sure you call back dispatch and tell them the estimated time window and the code generated on your screen. You will not be let in otherwise. 2. Equally, do not be later than 2 minutes of what the GPS says. It's the middle of the night, so you will not have any problems arriving. Traffic will not stop you. 3. You can spend the night in the quarters if you have no way of returning home by yourself. You'll be paid bi-weekly. Our client fees vary wildly, so it will be anywhere between £300 to £5,000, but we trust you'll be satisfied. Follow the rules. Don't let us lose you. I don't think my last customer was entirely human. It was my final delivery of the night. I hadn't planned on taking any more, but when it popped up, I'd figured one more wouldn't hurt. I've never been more wrong about anything in my life. I reread the instructions as I waited for the order. Hand food directly to customer. Location: Grand Plaza Hotel, room 1104. I don't usually like delivering to hotels. It can be hard to find free parking, and sometimes you can't even use the elevators without a hotel key. The tip was massive though. There was no guarantee they wouldn't change it afterwards, but if they didn't, it was going to go a long way towards my food budget for the month. The hotel loomed over me as I pulled in, an imposing figure of dark brick and shadowy stone arches. I couldn't help but notice that of the 15 floors, not a single room appeared to have a light on. The lot was empty, so at least parking wasn't a problem. The only light visible was coming from the lobby, but I couldn't see a single person inside when I approached the glass doors. It was only 8:30, so I doubted the check-in desk was closed. To my surprise, the doors did open. It was so nice inside. I figured I'd definitely need a room key to use the elevator. There were golden accents in the thick wooden check-in counters. A wide fireplace was flanked by chairs that were shaped so unnaturally no person I've ever met could have sat in them. I've never understood why many of the older, ritzier hotels always seem to have dark, floor-to-ceiling wood paneling, but no windows. The ornate chandelier cast weak amber light from vaulted ceilings high above my head, but I still couldn't shake the feeling I was in a box and about to be buried 6 feet underground. My shoes squeaked on the marble floor and echoed loudly in the otherwise silent lobby as I looked for any sign of life. The stark silence put me on edge. Where was everyone? Some of the winding hallways off the lobby were completely dark. The longer I stared into the shadows, the stronger the feeling that something was staring back at me. Something that could see me far better than I could see it. Just moments before, I'd been feeling incredibly alone. I found myself longing for that once more. I messaged the customer, wondering if they'd come downstairs. Maybe I could even wait outside. I smiled at the thought. I wanted out of there ASAP. Would you like to meet in the lobby? I typed out to them through the app, hopeful. No. I sighed and couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on me as I sought out the elevator. I pressed the only button anxiously, and it took me a moment to notice the embossed metal below it said, "Down," despite me being on what appeared to be the ground floor. Sure enough, I could hear the whirring sound of machinery as it approached from beneath my feet. The doors opened to reveal an ancient-looking interior of dark bronze and wood. But there were no buttons, simply what I guessed was a hand crank. I stood there, unsure of what to do for a moment. The doors stayed open, appearing to patiently await my decision. I shuddered at the thought of ending up stuck in some weird basement, or worse, between floors. So I reluctantly headed towards the stairs. It hit me when I reached the second floor. If it was a manual elevator, who'd been operating it on those lower floors? I quickened my pace. Looking back, I wish I'd never gone upstairs. I wish I'd just got the hell out of there. Maybe if I'd turned around and left, my hours wouldn't be numbered. But who knows, maybe I was doomed from the moment I accepted that order. I complained to myself as I kept climbing upwards, legs burning. At that moment, I was pissed off at everything. I hated the creepy ass building. I hated the elevator. And I hated the customer for making me walk what would end up being a total of 20 sets of stairs. If I'd known I would be doing that much cardio, I would have brought my freaking inhaler. Further increasing my frustration were the stairs themselves. They started out as wide marble steps in the lobby, but on the second floor transitioned to heavy wood that creaked with each step, tucked into a walled section on the far side of the building. They felt wrong. Some steps seemed wider than others. Some were narrow and shallow. Others were steep. It didn't help that the stairwell was poorly lit either. The customer kept messaging me over and over as I climbed. "Where are you, Amy?" I was trying to think of a polite way to explain that I was running late because I had to walk up 11 flights of stairs when I tripped and fell, cutting my chin on a jagged piece of wood. By the time I reached the 11th floor, I was nearly crawling, and blood was trickling down the front of my shirt. I leaned against the wall, panting. The blood from my cut seeped into the strangely patterned carpet, which seemed to take it in thirstily, without leaving so much as a stain. To my relief, the hall was mostly well lit. Although there were areas where lights flickered off and on, leaving some sections dark, for the most part, I could see everything, from the dark walls to the heavy wooden doors of each room. I realized that there were no room numbers anywhere at all. I sent out a message to ask how I was supposed to find room 1104, and the customer immediately wrote me back, "I'll find you." The light above me chose that moment to flicker and die. The moment it did, I was thrown into an absolute darkness like I'd never experienced before. It felt as if perhaps light had never existed in that place at all. There was just a deep, liquid blackness that forced its way into your nose and mouth, filling your lungs, threatening to drown you. Perhaps, I thought madly, perhaps I'd never seen light before at all. Maybe all I'd ever known was darkness. I walked what felt like an eternity, far longer than the few feet of unilluminated hall I'd seen before. I went to brace myself against the wall just to feel something solid against my fingertips, when I realized the walls weren't there. It hit me then that there was no guarantee I was even walking in the right direction. Crazy thoughts floated through my head. Maybe I'd be stuck there forever, breathing in the blackness, feeling it pour into my skull through empty sockets. Because who needs eyes in a place without light? I found myself laughing hysterically at the thought, a wet, sputtering sound, when I bumped into someone in the empty hallway. I say someone because I felt skin and long hair against my bare arm when I brushed against them. "Sorry," I whispered out of habit, before remembering that there hadn't been anyone else in the hall moments before. I'd just felt something like impossibly long fingers brush against my wrist when the light flickered back to life. There was still no one else in the hallway with me. I was dazed, eyes trying to adjust to the sudden brightness as I read the message the customer had sent while I was lost in the darkness. "Found you." In the distance, I could make out what sounded like something dragging along the carpet. I looked up just in time to catch a brief glimpse of the source of the sound. It was pulling itself towards me, visible for only a moment before the lights in the section between us went off. The thought of that thing coming towards me, those black pinpoint eyes, its intense hunger, I could almost feel on the air. With nothing between us except for the unlit hallway, filled me with a visceral fear unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. I couldn't let it catch me in the darkness. I didn't care if the customer complained. I didn't care if I got banned from the app. I frantically turned back the way I had come, which was once again in the shadows. I paused, desperately hoping that the light between me and the stairs would flicker back on. That black emptiness. No, it wasn't empty. It was too much. I trembled at the thought of forcing myself to go back in. The sound of the crawling from down the hall became louder, closer, and was enough to convince me that I couldn't wait. I needed to go back through the unlit section. It wouldn't be as bad the second time. I lied to myself. I ran the entire way. At first I tried holding my breath, but soon enough found myself gulping in lungfuls of the wet, stale air, choking on it as my airways began to close. I found myself becoming disoriented, borderline hysterical, when something pulled at my clothes. Long fingers wrapped around my ankle, pulling me to the ground, dragging me backwards. It brought me back to my senses, and I did the only thing I could think to do. I swung the takeout order behind me as hard as I could. Styrofoam squealed as it connected with something solid. Whatever was in there with me in the dark released me for a moment. It was enough for me to get back on my feet and run until I reached the stairs, which I descended 2 steps at a time, wheezing. I really regretted not bringing in my inhaler. I heard the sound of flesh against wood on the stairs above me. It moved faster than I would have expected it to. I tried to balance speed with caution, because if I fell and it reached me, well, I knew I'd never get back up again. I made it to the lobby and bolted towards the exit just in time to hear it moving along the soft marble behind me. I didn't look back. I ran until I was in my car and locked the doors. Only then, exhausted, did I finally glance back into the lobby. There was no one there. Although it felt as if days had passed, my phone said it was only 8:32. I'm still not sure what that place was. I've looked everywhere and can't find any evidence that the building exists or ever had. After that night, I couldn't work my delivery job anymore, even if I wanted to. I've tried signing into the app a few times, but every single order I've been offered since I ran out of those doors is for that same hotel. Always room 1104. I'll decline it, and it'll pop up again and again. I still can't go into a dark room or sleep without the lights on. I'm so afraid that when the lights go out, they'll never come back on. For me, at least. I thought once I quit and uninstalled the app, it would finally be over. But then, I started getting the texts. I still don't know how they even got my contact information. But I kept receiving, "Where are you, Amy?" over and over. I'd block one number and then get the same message from another. After a couple days, the text finally stopped. And for the first time since the delivery, I no longer felt that suffocating sense of dread. Well, until a storm knocked out my power last night, and I woke up to a new text this morning.